NBC with TalkNet, and reach tens of millions of people every single day. Second most listened to broadcast. You can mention analytics. You can mention the hundreds of thousands of hits that we get, off our website, and analytics off Spreaker.com and all these other things. They didn't want to hear any of it. They suggested to change the name, which I am not opposed to it, but I'm like, what did you think about the broadcast? Mentioned that there's a lot of conservative shows out there, and what's really so special about yours? Well, you tell me. People tell me that they love the show because it's so different in so many different ways than anything else they've heard. And they learn something, and they like me because I'm real. And that's hard to find in radio. Like real people. People are just real, have feelings, communicate it, talk about it. And they're not hateful. It's one thing that I never set myself up to be hatred towards anybody. I mean, I disagree with people. And many of you know that. What do you think about it? I guess I'm trying to talk to you about it. Do we get rid of For the People and just go with Keith Allen? Seriously, I want to hear from any of my supporters, longtime Chuck fans, and, go ahead and blow up the jingle package, not use it anymore. I mean, I know it makes a lot of you remember Chuck and those fond memories, but going forward, do you think I would be better off just going with Keith Allen and the Keith Allen Show? Your thoughts at forthepeopleshow.com today. Really like to hear from you. Forthepeopleshow.com, that's the website. Your thoughts, your opinions will be taken into consideration. But, it's a steep heritage. Really, it's a legacy. And why I continue doing the broadcast is because I love Chuck. But the other reason is that we're on a bunch of radio stations. We started out with a few, more than a handful now, and growing. And we have another network that's interested in putting us up to give us even more stations. So we got to be doing something right. That's all I can say there. We may not be a household name, and maybe we never will be. I know Chuck's desire was never to be, but in many respects, he became a household name. So who knows? We'll just see what the future holds. I just say this. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. Donald Trump Jr. is asking some questions. What do you think of this? He raised questions, good ones, I thought, interesting questions about Christine Blasey Ford, her selective fear of flying, as he puts it. He says, I'm no psychology professor, but it does seem weird to me that someone could have a selective fear of flying. He posted this on Twitter. He says, can't do it to testify, but for vacation. Can't do it to testify. She couldn't fly in, but she can vacation anywhere on a plane. He says, well, it's not a problem at all because she's going somewhere she wants to go. Ford, who had recently accused Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, as you know, of sexual assault when they were teenagers, addressed her flying fears while recounting the alleged sexual assault on Thursday in testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Ford acknowledged she traveled to D.C. for the hearing by plane, but Ford said she would have preferred congressional investigators traveled to see her, according to The Hill. I was hoping that they would come to me, but then realized that I was an unrealistic request, said Ford, a clinical psychology professor. That was certainly what I was hoping was to avoid having to get on an airplane, but I eventually was able to get up the gumption with the help of some friends and get on the plane. Ford conceded she traveled fairly frequently by plane for her hobbies and work. And she noted that she has traveled to Hawaii, Costa Rica, and France. Easier for me to travel that direction when it's vacation, she says. Interesting. when it's convenient, when it actually fits the narrative. It is kind of interesting that she can be persuasive. After all, she is a psychology major, and is it possible that she might have a few screws loose? Is it possible? He says, I'm not a psychology major. I don't know, but it was just kind of an interesting thing that he put on there. And you know what? To me, the back door in California, it's just, it's all new. This is all new. All this is stuff coming out now because he's going to be nominated to the Supreme Court. And now Blasey Ford tells her husband, I have to have two front doors because of the fear of claustrophobia because of that incident with Brett Kavanaugh 36 years ago. I got to have the second door. It's just amazing how all of this stuff has conveniently come out now. Now. Not earlier. Now. Not when he was in the White House. Not when he was serving other administrations and doing other work. Not when he was sitting as judge. But because he's becoming a Supreme Court judge, or he'll be nominated for that. The vote comes Friday at 1:30, by the way. See how that works out. It's just, it's very convenient for the Dems, in my opinion, to do this. And I do believe that there is a lot of smearing going on. And these new witnesses or these new facts or this new information, let's hear them. I believe me, I'd be the first. Let me hear what claims that you have about people that say that they saw him there at the party and put them there next to the 60 others that claim that he wasn't. It seems like there's so many more people that are coming forward for Brett Kavanaugh than Blasey Ford, in my opinion. Well, it's fact. It's not just my opinion, it's fact. Mark Judge, the high school friend of Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh, wrote a letter today that he does not recall the events described by Dr. Christine Blasey Ford during her testimony in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. I never saw Brett act in the manner Dr. Ford describes, he wrote. Judge directed the letter under penalty of felony to Chairman of the Judiciary Committee, Chuck Grassley, and Ranking Member Dianne Feinstein through his attorney, Barbara Van Gelder. He said, I did not ask to be involved in this matter, nor did anyone ask me to be involved, the letter said, and referred to his previous letter, which was sent on September 18th. The letter was released hours before members of the Judiciary Committee were set to vote on Kavanaugh's nomination. The actual vote is expected. It was expected at 10:30 this morning, Eastern time on Friday, but it's been bumped to 1:30. Judge's letter told the committee that he does not want to comment about the events publicly. As a recovering alcoholic and a cancer survivor, I have struggled with depression and anxiety, his letter said. As a result, I avoid public speaking. Van Gelder told the Washington Post on Wednesday that Judge needs to avoid the spotlight for his health. I told him to leave town. He is being hounded. He is a recovering alcoholic. He's under unbelievable stress. Judge's attorney told the paper he needed for his own health to get out of this toxic environment and take care of himself. Judge also said in the letter that he and Kavanaugh were friends in high school but have not spoken directly in several years. Ford claimed Kavanaugh pinned her, of course, to the bed. You know the whole thing in Maryland, attempted to remove her clothes, put his hand over her mouth, prevent her from screaming. She said he and Judge had also turned the music up to a loud volume. Ford claimed she was able to escape to a bathroom and then outside of the house when Judge jumped into the fray and set everyone in the room tumbling. It's more and more and more stuff coming out that just seems like nonsense. Utter nonsense. And by the way, if two men were there and then one was witnessing, or two men were there, I don't think that a woman, if they were trying to have their way and the door was locked and pinned, and if you wanted to have your way, you'd be able to have your way completely. And I don't know. This just seems like a really cuckoo story to me. Again, this is me. I just got to give it to you the way that I feel it, and I'm speculating. And it's coming out of their mouth. And when they come out of their mouth, I mean, it's just impressions. And I don't believe that Kavanaugh's the one. I think she's talking about somebody else, or something traumatized her to where she feels like somebody raped her. And maybe somebody did, but it wasn't Brett Kavanaugh. I really, in my heart of hearts, stand by Brett Kavanaugh. The sex crime prosecutor Republicans hired to question Brett Kavanaugh and accuser Christine Blasey Ford told senators the case would not hold up in a courtroom. Yeah, the prosecutor, Rachel Mitchell, spoke at an overnight meeting where 51 Republican senators were present. Two people briefed on the session said Mitchell spelled it out and was clear with senators that she did not take this anywhere near a courtroom. Yeah, she told them that she would not charge the Supreme Court nominee, and reportedly said she wouldn't even seek a search warrant. Mitchell's opinion could sway fence-sitting senators ahead of the critical Senate Judiciary Committee vote set for this afternoon. So there you go, folks. As of late Thursday, yesterday, 47 Republican senators had pledged to vote for Kavanaugh at the scheduled full Senate vote. And the outstanding Republicans were Senators Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Jeff Flake of Arizona, which is on board fully. He wasn't, but he is. And Mike Enzi of Wyoming. Enzi is expected to vote in support of Kavanaugh, but has said he won't announce his position until he votes. So anyway, a lot more people have turned around, said that they wouldn't, or now, because, well, the president was very happy with Kavanaugh's testimony yesterday and his defense of himself, and figured, hey, both were heard. He said he wanted to be fair, and there you go. Alan Dershowitz, he's coming out and saying postpone the whole thing. Postpone the up and down vote until an FBI can investigate Kavanaugh, for the 7th or 8th time? It doesn't make any darn sense. I mean, seriously. If you believe differently, tell me at For the People Show at Facebook, For the People Show on Facebook, or forthepeopleshow.com. Send me an email. Tom Hanks, by the way, he's going to be playing Fred Rogers. Fred Rogers, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Remember that guy. He appeared the first time yesterday with the Oscar-winning wearing the signature Mr. Rogers sweater. Yeah, that red sweater, remember? Along with a dress shirt and tie and tan slacks and sneakers. It was announced in January that Hanks would play Rogers in a upcoming TriStar Pictures biographical drama with production starting in September. The film is based on the true story of the friendship between Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and a host journalist, Tom Janad, of the movie Matthew Rhys. Okay? Yeah, it's a jaded magazine writer who was reluctantly assigned to profile Rogers. So he ends up being so moved by Rogers' kindness and empathy that he overcomes his skepticism and renewed outlook on life. He says the movie is the second in recent months to focus on Rogers, with hit documentary Won't You Be My Neighbor? And it's getting released in June. So Hanks is directed by Marley Heller, The Diary of a Teenage Girl, from a script from Noah Harpster. This little technical back information for you. The film is expected to hit theaters in October of 2019. So next year, we'll be looking for it. Listen, I was a big fan of Mr. Rogers. Don't make fun of me. I mean, there was 3 networks back in the 70s, okay? I was born in 1970. Yep. 3 channels. And then there was UHF. If you were handy with those antennas. But it worked, and it kept us entertained, and I learned, and I look forward to watching him, because he really delved into so many different subjects. It was just magical. And we do miss Fred Rogers, but I think it's so befitting that in some small way, people, or with his kindness, his empathy,